Welcome back to the channel. You probably don't notice, I do, I haven't ridden and recorded in like 2 weeks. So I'm excited today because after 3 long weeks, I finally finished Dynasty Warriors Origins. I feel like I could have finished it earlier than that, but I just wanted to enjoy the full experience. But it's definitely a different formula than what I'm used to. I haven't played Dynasty Warriors since, I want to say the only ones I've ever played was maybe 2, 3, maybe 4. A couple on the PSP. What I'm trying to say here is it's been a long time since I played a Dynasty Warriors, so I'm expecting something that's gonna be totally different than what I'm used to, but there is something slightly interesting about these games that I never really thought about. The fact that these games are all similar in the story that they're telling. And what I mean by that is they all are portrayed, because look, let me start with this. When I played the other ones, I was a kid, right? I was maybe 13, 14, something like that. Let's say 15, 16. You don't read anything, and you don't really pay attention to the story, which I want to say it's a good thing, because there's some things about this game that I guess I never paid attention to. And I'm gonna have to talk about that later. But the storyline in this game is basically portraying the romance of the 3 kingdoms. So they're all similar in the way that you have, in the end you have your 3 different kingdoms, and you know, one's gonna be the ruler of all. So that depends on you and how you carry on the story. But they're all very similar. They change different things here and there. Like in certain Dynasty Warriors, they'll add a little bit of extra storyline, or they'll add certain characters. But on this one, I definitely I appreciated the fact that it's not only similar, but because of the graphic bump, I noticed a lot of more, of course, not just the detail, but I noticed more like the maturity of the characters, because most of these characters in ancient history they're basically young. Like they're like 20, 25, 23, and they died very very young back then in war. And in this game, in past games, all the characters look very cartoony from what I remember. There is seriousness and depth to the design, but it kind of looks more like a cartoony game. This one, it features a lot more of a serious ambiance when it comes to like the graphics, like the characters. You could tell like the maturity, which that's one part of each character, because there's another part that I was never expecting here. And before I get to that, I want to start with the storyline. So in this one, I'm gonna completely just give like my recollection of the 3 weeks that I just went through. And you basically start as a character that you don't speak too much, which the character does speak a lot in war. I just didn't notice until the very end that was actually me the whole time, saying, you know, like saying things out loud and stuff. And I was like, oh, I thought this character just never spoke, which I found it a little weird, but I guess not. But yeah, you choose your character's name, and he doesn't seem to remember anything. So as you're, you know, you have amnesia, you're walking through town, you see some militia, they're taking food from the I don't want to say it like that, but look, man, this game puts it like that. So it's like they're taking food from peasants, And you know, in this game they have pride, calling themselves peasants, because I guess in a way they are, but it's not, you know, it's not like demeaning or anything. It's more like, I guess that's what they were called, so I'm not trying to argue with that. So they're taking food from the peasants, and then you have a character that you know, kind of comes out of nowhere, man with the beard, I'm gonna say, because look, there's a lot of names and I'm gonna mess up some names if I try, so I'm not even going to. So I may say, you know, we got the first man that we meet, which is the man with the beard, and then we got another man that we meet, which is man with the long hair. And in the description it does tell you that, like, man with the beard, man with the long hair, until they introduce themselves and you get to know who they are. So you stand up against this militia, and you meet these two gentlemen, and you're basically a one-man army fighting against a militia of hundreds of people. So that off the rip, yes, it's a little fantasy-like, but hey, we got some warriors nowadays that they could take on 30-40 people by themselves, because they're just beasts, okay? So there's some fantasy aspect, but we don't know. I mean, who knows, man? This guy probably woke up and he was like, I'm ready for blood. So you fight this militia, you get to the very end of the battle, and then all of a sudden you find out that the man with the long hair actually has his own militia, and he's like a freedom fighter. So you completely destroy the militia, he thanks you for your help, and he goes away. He carries on. As time passes by, man with the long hair basically becomes more and more powerful. So he in a way turns evil, because he gets too much power and he starts abusing power. So he just wants to like take over everything, burn all the villages, and like the same way that the game started with her taking food from the peasants is basically the same exact thing that they're doing now, which is, it's a little confusing, because when you first meet him he's talking about peace and all this good stuff, but then it ultimately doesn't become that way for him, or his idea of peace is definitely something else. So then you meet some characters. You find yourself again with man with the long beard. You join his group, which is gonna be under the rule of Liu Bei. And then man with the long beard, of course, you find out he's Guan Yu, and he's gonna be a very important character for later on. And of course all of them are, but you know. So you fight under him, and then they are the new like freedom fighters, and they're not like official force per se. They're just guys that got together and they're like, we definitely want peace for the people. So after a couple of battles, you basically get to a man with the long hair, which I want to say his name is something Zhang, like Zhang, you know what, that's why I said I wasn't gonna try. So you finally defeat man with the long hair, and you learn that basically it's nature. So you learn that it's basically the law of nature, in the fact that no matter what, when a man has power, no matter what, they will abuse it, because I guess that's what nature calls for. Like, it's never going to be, you know, they all promise peace and all that good stuff, but based on this law of nature, it's never going to be that way. You fight for it at first, but then you ultimately become what you're fighting. So learning that, you know, you can traverse. Of course, you got like map options, so you have like a big ass map, and then you get to like run around the map, and then you got like different things that pop up here and there. Like you got skirmishes, and then you got certain battles that are optional. Of course, later on you start meeting more and more forces. There are, of course, the three kingdoms. So once you get to know the three kingdoms, in the end it's going to be under Liu Bei is one of them. You have Cao Cao, which is the other kingdom, and then you have the Sun family. So those are the three kingdoms, and in this game there will be a point where after you meet all these characters, because yes, you do have three kingdoms in the end, but in the very beginning they all fought together against a greater evil. So after defeating Man with the Long Hair, there's another man that becomes evil in that same way, and he was somebody that you fought alongside with. But ultimately, same thing happened. He became evil. The only difference is that this guy definitely looked evil. So I mean, I got you know, he definitely looked like the role. So you fight against him, and then you know, you get to learn a little bit more that it's just inevitable. Inevitable. Like it's completely inevitable. So I mean, it's something important to understand that as you go through the game, you have to choose one side. So even though you fought alongside all these characters, and then later on you have the three kingdoms, like you have to choose one side, which means that you will be fighting the other two. And it's something a little sad, because you get to share a lot of time, and it's optional, but you get to talk to a lot of the generals, which by the way, they all love to treat you to eat. But the other thing too is that this game has a factor of romanticism, hence Romance of the Three Kingdoms, that it's something that I had to look it up because I found it a little strange. And I find it more strange because, like I said before, I never paid attention to the storylines before. I just completely like played the game, and I wanted to annihilate like hundreds and hundreds of people. But yeah, there's a slight sense of romanticism in which all the generals that you know sit down with and they invite you to eat, they all feel very comfortable with you around, and they let you know very, very freely. So there are some characters that, you know, they'll say things like, you know, come sit with me and let's eat, so I can like remember your scent of like your, you know, of you, so I can remember you. You know, there's some other characters that are like, oh, like I want you with me, like I want to be with you. So there are some things like that I'm just like, okay, it's a little strange. And I looked it up online, and apparently, yeah, that was definitely a real thing. Like it wasn't considered anything. It was just, you know, they were just guys. You know, they were just guys that fought a lot. And they fought a lot, and they were constantly with each other. So I mean, it was just like an admiration of strength between each other. So it's like, you know, one dude will probably come, and you know, as you're talking to him and he's treating you out to eat and stuff, he looks brolic and stuff, but then he'll tell you things like, oh, you know, I love your smell, and things like that. And they want to let you know that they really, really appreciate you, every single one. So that was a one thing about the game. And once I looked up like other videos of like the older games, it was always there. It was always there. I just never paid attention to it. So, oh, where am I going? There we go. So in the end, you get to choose a side. I chose Cao Cao because I wanted to choose the Sun family, because I loved how they represented not only family, but they represented strength, like strength between each other, and bolstering each other up, things like that. And whoa, okay, yeah, so there's certain things like that of course I liked, but then there was a battle in which all of a sudden he gets killed. So the father of the family gets completely killed. Rock falls on him and he dies, and then his son basically takes over. But the problem is that there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is that the family is basically like just coming apart. Like in the end, they're just coming apart, and the family is not as strong as it used to be with the father. So that kind of like changed my mind, and then I ended up going with Cao Cao because he fights with reason. So that was like my second option. Is you know, he could fight, and he doesn't let like things stand in the way of what the goal is. So he considers everything, and he's very logical. So I ended up going with him, and it was a good choice. It was a good choice. I liked it. You get to see the development of the other kingdoms as they keep going. So you know, you get stronger. You start fighting other armies. You recruit a lot of your enemies, which I noticed that Cao Cao definitely, he let a lot of his enemies like survive and then fight for him, because he basically said like, look, I could kill you, but you know, you'll be more useful to me out in the field. And it's not like a mean thing. It's not like he's like, oh yeah, no, like do this and then you know, that's all you're gonna be good for. No, like he's letting you know that, but he's also appreciating you. So he's definitely there to like listen to you. So I ended up going with him. Of course, towards the end of the game, you get to fight the other kingdom. So you fight the Sun Kingdom, you fight the Bay Kingdom. And there was one battle that I definitely had to I have to mention this. There's a battle where you meet a character throughout the game, and you fight him a couple of times, you know. His name is Lu Bu. This guy is by far the hardest battle of the game itself. And mind you, in earlier battles you do fight him. You know, you do fight him. You get to basically see his strength, and he's very powerful. It's optional. And there are times where I did, you know, defeat him. There are times where I did not defeat him. But let me tell you something about that. The fact that in one battle, you actually have to fight him one-on-one as a boss battle. And it took me like 5 tries to beat him. This battle was by far the hardest one I've ever had to go through. This was the most Souls-like battle I've ever fought, because it was so precise, and like you had to pay attention at what he was doing, that it was just too much. Like it was just too much. But once you beat him, that's it. There's no battle like him. And he's like a little bit after the half of the game, so there's definitely more to go after that. The only thing I found weird and crazy is the fact that it's super crazy, the fact that you have to basically defeat him in a final, in like a final phase type of deal, where some generals, as they get near like their death, they have like a status bar on top where it kind of builds up to their ultimate Musou attack. And the thing about that is that you have to basically break their fortitude before that attack, because if you back out too far, it restarts again, and then you gotta like re-break his fortitude, and he starts building up that bar again for the ultimate Musou attack. That part was probably the hardest part of the game. So let me tell you this, once you get through that, it's over. Like the game is enjoyable thereafter. The battles are going to be a little bit longer, but the same thing. It's completely doable. So once you get near the very end, you're basically taking down almost all the forces. Cao Cao is pretty much in rule, in control of the entire realm. The final battle, you get to you basically annihilate Liu Bei, and then you annihilate the Sun forces. Everybody's done for. Cao Cao is basically about to escape, and then you have man with a long beard appear out of nowhere, and he basically stands in your way. So battle conditions change into like you have to now defeat him, and it's a sad finish because that's the same person that basically helped you out in the very beginning and fought with you alongside. So in this game, the law of man, I can basically say that the easiest way to explain this is it's not about like a Game of Thrones style where like don't get used to somebody because then they're gonna get eliminated. It's basically like you can have relationships with people in like your past, and you know, they could be your best friend or they could, you know, not be as friendly, and that's just how things are. I mean, some people change, some people don't. So, you know, that's the variable, and that's the freedom that we have, that we could do things like that and make decisions like that. So the fact that I have to now fight my friend from the very beginning, you know, he chose his path and I chose my path, and we're all fighting for something. Like at the end of the day, we're all fighting for something, and that's just what it is. So you defeat Guan Yu, or aka Man with the Beard, and that's it. Cao Cao basically takes over, you rule the land, and then you have the option to go back. You go back to chapter 3, because there's 5 chapters in the game, and you can go back to chapter 3 and re-choose your option. So you can go with the Sun family, or you can side with Liu Bei. And I wanted, okay, since I mentioned this real quick, Liu Bei, I wanted to go with him, but as a realistic point, like, I don't think I would side with somebody that is all about just peace, because, you know, the world ain't like that, and that's the sad truth. But it is what it is. So it's like you have to not be a total tyrant, but I'm saying like you have to fight with reason, because sometimes things are right and sometimes things are not right. And with that, it was a great game. It was a great game, beautiful game. I don't know what the max level is on this game is, but I got to like 50. So that's pretty high enough. You get to choose a bunch of skills. So you have skills, you have 9 different weapons. All the weapons are freaking cool. They're really cool. So I mean, all the weapons have their boss combos. So really good game, very enjoyable. I can't really complain about this game at all too much. I mean, it's the style of the game. It's a Musou, like, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's that type of style where it's just put me in a battlefield, let me battle like 3,000-4,000 people, and let's see who comes out number 1. So definitely different. Because in past games, I mean, you played as the generals themselves. So in this one, that you play as another character, it's interesting. Which, you know what? I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna try to say this within like a minute. Because, okay, you know what? If there's one part I could complain about, it's the side storyline. The whole thing about your character-wise. So you don't remember anything, and as you play the game, I mean, you meet this doctor, and he's like getting to like treat you and stuff, so that way you can start remembering. Once you start remembering, basically, like, as you, the main character, your story is that you're part of this village or this group. They're called the Guardians of Peace. So you're a Guardian of Peace, but you're an assassin, and you basically kill whoever needs to be killed to maintain the order. So that's what you are. So you're like Illuminati, basically. In the very beginning, I guess in the past, the leader of the village is this kid, And yeah, you this kid in the village, he's like the leader of it, and he has like you, and then he has another person, which is Zuhe. She's like the strongest warrior of the village, and basically that's all you do. Like, you're just like an assassin that keeps the order. So throughout the game you meet this mysterious character, which I mean, it's not like it's important, but you find out your real name is Ziluan, which is cool. You know, some characters they'll call you by your name, but then that's about it. Like, there's nothing else to it. Like, there is no other depth to like you as the character. You're just part of this village of assassins, and then you know, as the time goes, like, it gets like, I guess people found out where the village is, and then like they break in, they kill everybody. Zuhe defends the village, she ends up dying, and time passes by, and then you find the kid, which his name is Biluan, and he's an adult now, but he's like trying to kill Cao Cao because he's like trying to maintain the peace, which is like, what is the peace? Like, at this point, what is the peace? Because Cao Cao is doing his thing. So you fight him, and then you defeat him, and then he's like, okay, well, you know, I guess we'll do with your choice, and this and that. And at the very end, Biluan, he's like, okay, yeah, well, Cao Cao won. I guess that was a good choice in the end. But next time, you know, if anything happens, or like if he gets corrupt, which in essence the game's kind of telling you that it will, then yeah, then I'm gonna put him down. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, like, that whole part of the game, like, I think we could have done without it, but it was there, so it was a nice little thing. Yeah, this game is definitely very good. It was enjoyable. I would definitely recommend it for anybody. And let me know down in the comments if you played it. Which choice did you make? Which storyline did you make? Because there's okay, this is weird. Why are there people just in the middle of the street? Yeah, I want to see like what the depth is with the other choices. If you like the video, you know, hit like, subscribe. You know, if you want to see more videos like this. I finally did one where I spoiled it. I think I might start doing this from now on. I mean, unless nobody likes it, just let me know. But I will catch you guys on the next one, and you guys take care. Have a good one. Peace.